Chat room, the 2024 Seattle Mariners season is officially over. We're free of what this team has done to us over the last couple of months. Um, it's bittersweet. You know what I mean? It's one of those days where I always get pretty emotional on the last day of the season just because it sucks. Like I love being able to watch baseball for every single night. And the fact that now we won't get to be able to watch the Mariners for the next, 6 months sucks. It really does. I was at the stadium today, and I was just kind of like sitting there, and even after the game, I just kind of sat there, just trying to take it all in. But yeah, Joe, we've officially finished this season. Another year in the books for us. On a personal note, Mariner Mojo. On a personal note, another year in the books for us. Been about 2 years now, going strong. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
I like K Kinney's. It's Mariner Mojover. Personally, that's where I'm at. It's Mojover. It's always been Mojover. It's been Mojover for a while. But 2025, we're so back.
We're so back.
Accent, you're looking to get banned. Accent getting banned. First, he blocks us on Twitter. Then he wants to get banned in chat. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. No way. No way you're going to delete that.
Yeah. Timed out for 1 minute. That's right.
Damn. I can't believe Accent just got timed out before Lucario did in a stream. That's actually wild.
I timed out Lucario in real life today, so.
True. You literally said you gave him like you muted him on Twitter kind of a vibe.
That's right.
Yeah. Good game. Logan flirting with a perfecto, and then he promptly gets yanked. Right? It was a perfect game, right?
It was until that hit was given up. They had Bizardo warming up in the pen, waiting for Logan to give up a hit or a walk or something, and he didn't obviously until that sixth inning. And it was like, so I was talking to Lyle at the time when that happened, and Lyle didn't realize that it was a perfect game. I asked him, I said, so how long do you think they let Logan go? And he said, I don't even know why he started. Blah blah. They should just pull him out now. And then I was like, well, I feel like they don't pull him out until he lets a base runner get on. He looks down, he looks this forward, he's like, oh crap. I didn't even realize.
That would have been that's like obviously not making the playoffs terrible, but if Logan finished the 2024 season with, doesn't even matter if it's a perfect game, just like a no-hitter, that would have been unreal vibes. Yep. Paired with Cal's obviously breaking Piazza's record and getting 100 RBI as well with his home run. But Accent, member for 19 months, tying up the Mike E tenure here as far as longest active member with the broken heart. Sorry that it happened to you, Accent, but we appreciate it as always.
If Logan could have beat the Astros, y'all would be in the playoffs. Wish we were playing y'all instead of Detroit for the drama of it. Yeah, I mean, I think you might feel the same way, Cooper, but Joe and I said, like, we were hoping that the Mariners would make the third wild card and go play Houston because we wouldn't have it any other way. Like, until the Mariners can beat Houston in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. So, like, we want Houston. You know what I mean? They've beat our asses for long enough. We have to prove that we can beat Houston. So it is a bummer that they weren't able to make the playoffs and go down to Houston, but Brash and Santos' return next year, healthy, might finally have the three at a bullpen monster, along with four-fifths of our starting rotation. If they're healthy, if everybody stays healthy, then yes. Yeah. That's the hard part, is everyone staying healthy. I saw somebody ask about Jerry's comments. We're going to talk a lot about that with Yuri. We're going to talk a lot about that in our episode of the Hit It Here podcast, which we're going to record after this. So we'll try to cover it as much as we can there. So
make sure you're subscribed to watch the Hit It Here pod. Yeah.
Don't want to didn't quite get the 12K, chat. We didn't quite get there.
That's okay. Maybe there's not 12,000 Mariners fans. Maybe there's just not 12,000 of them. We're really pushing the limits and the boundaries of Mariners fandom. I mean, right. What, 2 million plus 2.5 million entered that stadium this year? Is that what the final number was? Like on terms of attendance? Definitely not 12,000 Mariners fans out there to be subscribed to the channel, but that's neither here nor there. I know Brash won't probably be ready until at least what are you thinking, like June? At the earliest?
Yeah, that's I'd say like May, honestly,
Ooh,
but we'll see.
May. Ian's saying halfway through the season. So we've got May, June, July. One of us is going to hit on it somewhere. One of us will. I think Santos, hopefully he just has a healthy offseason and gets back to like full strength. I know obviously he pitched in today's game. He made what, 2 appearances down the last couple. So if he has a healthy offseason, the bullpen will be looking sharp, I think, with even without Brash heading into the beginning of the regular season next year, like depending on if they add anybody as well. But I feel very confident with 4 guys being pretty leveragey going into 2025 with Munoz, Santos, Taylor, and Snyder kind of like out the gates. Obviously, there were some bumps in the road for Snyder and Taylor down the stretch showing that they were human, but it's hard to not be excited about what they brought to the table. Also, they might trade Colin Snyder. They traded Justin Topa. They traded Eric Swan. Like,
It feels very much like that.
Yeah,
like he feels exactly like that guy.
He could be on the chopping block for whatever reason. The next brought to market reliever for the Mariners, kind of up for sale, but we'll see how it goes. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself thinking about like roster moves and stuff. The one thing I will say, the amount of, and of course coming off of the walk-off by Justin Turner last night, there was a lot of positivity surrounding his presence with the club from a lot of the guys that you really you hear what they say, you read what they say, and it's like, yeah, we tend to kind of follow what Cal Raleigh, Luke Raley, Julio Rodriguez, like what they say is kind of like speaking for, I'd say, the large majority of the team, and you kind of trust their judgment. If they want Turner back, screw it. It can't be any worse than employing Mitch Haniger next year, kind of a thing, right? Like, in my opinion. And he's hit well here. He's a professional hitter. And he said that he 100% wants to come back. He's feeling good. Maybe not come back to Seattle, but like come back and play baseball next year, I should say. I would be fine with the Justin Turner reunion. It's just the roster crunch as far as position players gets really weird at that point. But like that, I think it's not a sexy first base platoon with him and Luke Raley, I'd say, as far as like what you could go out and maybe upgrade with. But I wouldn't be mad at it going into 2025. And if that's me being like just okay with being spoon-fed, meh, I don't know. I've liked Turner's tenure since we acquired him, but
I have two. My issue with bringing Justin Turner back is knowing how this organization runs. They'll say, "Okay, that's our addition."
yeah,
Like, okay, we're not going to try to get meaningfully better at first base because we brought back Justin Turner, so we don't need to be in the market for Pete Alonso. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, then I don't want him back. Like, I don't think that. Again, I think he's been great for the team. I love Justin Turner. I think he's been great for this team. But them adding Justin Turner next year and saying that's our solution at first base is him and Luke Raley, I don't think should happen.
sure.
Like, they should go look at Christian Walker. You know, what can they give him if he wants to come here? I mean, even Pete Alonso. Like those are things that they should be doing. And if Justin Turner still happens to be available and all those other pieces fall, sure, go out and get him as a stopgap until you're 100% certain that Tyler Locklear is ready. Locklear, in my opinion, like if they were to go with a Rayleigh Locklear platoon next year, I wouldn't be mad at that. Like,
Yeah,
I don't hate that idea.
fair.
With that being said, you have to be 100% certain that these guys can perform because you're not going to get a second chance to this. You either go out and get somebody this year to fill that position, or you better be damn sure that he's ready to perform, because if he's not, Jerry's losing his job. And so I think that for the Mariners, and I don't want to get too far ahead, I want to talk more about the 2024 season than 2025, but I think that it makes sense to bring Justin Turner back, especially depending on the salary. He shouldn't come too expensive. And so I think that it's not a bad idea, but it really depends on what else you add throughout the offseason.
So what do you want to talk about with 2024?
You know, we just got to kind of memorialize it. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about next year, you know, but like, I feel like the way that, and we'll probably talk about this, you know, when we talk about in the podcast, but I feel like this season is broken into 3 parts. So you have the first half of the season where the Mariners are kind of firing on all cylinders. I'd say up until like June 1st.
The
Mariners are firing on all cylinders. They're 10 games over the Astros. And then it gets to the point where all of a sudden they suck. Whatever happened, like the offense was bad, I don't know already. But now, like the team itself was really bad. And then you have the third part when obviously the firing of Scott Service. I feel like those are the three things that we can really look at and say, okay, that this season is broken into those three parts. And I think at the start of the season, Joe, for that first part where the team was 10 games above 500, they just, I mean, they weren't hitting. Like nothing changed there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the hitting got worse, but like they weren't hitting. The pitching staff was still good. In that middle part there where the team was really bad, the pitching staff wasn't bad. So that's what's weird. Is like that sure there were some injuries in there, with like Brian Wu at the start of the year.
Yeah.
But like I don't necessarily obviously it's that part 1 to part 2 there. What went wrong, do you think, in that part of the season?
Oh man. I mean, it's hard to not look at the coaching staff decisions, maybe given too much leash. And it was, I think, decisions that we had defended quite extensively. Like, yeah, they probably, like, if it continues to suck, they'll be done by the end of the year, but like they'll probably finish out the year. And that proved to not be true. And I think if they had switched, say, as soon as they lost the 10-game lead, kind of a thing, if they were able to kind of pull that move off then, it could have been who knows. And I don't want to sit here and play what ifs, but like that could be something that I point out as like you can see the actual change like month by month if you go on Baseball Reference and look at splits. Like the OP, like the slugging is, I mean, batting average and slugging alone are astronomically better compared to the previous 5 months. And it's just, okay, had they done that move earlier, would they have seen similar results? Maybe they wouldn't have skyrocketed as much. Maybe it'd been a bit more gradual as far as the offense grows. But I don't know. Seeing also some of the comments like coming out from Jude about like saying like Mariners insiders with like talking about how Brant Brown was very aggressive towards Julio and like very like hard on him, and Julio didn't receive that well. It's like, okay, like how did that kind of affect the dynamic within the clubhouse between the team and the coaching staff? And like that's talking about like Jared DeHart trying to pick up the pieces, and it's like I know that there's no reason for us and the like just fan base in general to know that, but I think, and it's not excusing, I guess, like the lack of effort or the lack of production on the field. But like had we known that it was not a like healthy, conducive winning environment, I would have been a bit more like, okay, maybe they do need to make like an actual like big change to try and like just kind of like pull the rug on whatever else was left there. That would be like my big thing that I could point to, but I don't know where else I'd go as far as like what went wrong. It's literally just the guys not performing on the field, but like if their coaching staff isn't giving them the right tools to succeed and it was like damaging to them. I know that we've also kind of said that like coaching changes don't really like have a large effect or as large of an effect as people might think, but I mean, the foot's in my mouth. The change was noticed the last month, so.
Yeah, and I think that there are plenty of things about like the coaching change that can have an effect. Like again, are the hitters or were the hitters hitting because they added Randy Arozarena and Justin Turner? That's certainly part of it. Like adding those guys, making your lineup longer certainly helps. Like, is it because they brought in Edgar? Sure, why not? Like, I mean, I guess if Edgar Martinez is the guy who helped the Mariners figure it out, then great. That is fantastic. I wish they would have done it sooner.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes in 2025 with Edgar if he does decide he wants to come back, because it is up to him. And as we heard from Jerry, he's gonna do everything they can to make sure Edgar's back.
In some capacity.
In some capacity, which is kind of what he was doing before. So we'll see how it works out. I'm not sure. We have plenty of time to figure that out. But yeah, I think that when you divide it into those three parts, it's the team was 10 games above above the Astros, and then the just all-time collapse, and then you have the 30 whatever games it was that Dan Wilson was the manager. Like that's kind of the way that it is split up, and I think that it makes it a little bit more, I guess, digestible to split it up that way, to really talk about each part. That first part of the season, the Mariners should probably not have been winning
as much.
Like that first part, like they were playing, it was chaos ball, man. They were winning games they probably shouldn't have, and because their pitching staff was so good, the one thing that stands out to me from part 1 and part 2 here is the bullpen. The bullpen was, and I don't have the numbers to back this up. I could be wrong here, but the bullpen to me feels like it went south quickly, and that is what lost the Mariners a lot of games from part 1 to part 2 there. Again, I could be wrong on that, but I mean, obviously you had guys like Ryan Stanek in that bullpen. Gabe Spire just kind of fell off a cliff. Taylor Saucedo was not as good this year. You had some guys come out like Colin Snyder or Troy Taylor that were kind of revelations, you know, that they were able to go out there and add to this bullpen. But like a lot of the guys that you went into the season relying on, this is usually how it goes with bullpens. They didn't turn out. And so I think that is that's kind of where we're at. So that is my reason as to what happened in between parts 1 and 2. I don't necessarily know if the numbers are there to support that, but that's where my head's at.
You want to read Tim's Kitchen comment?
There was cooking today. Let's go, Tim. Let's go, Tim.
So we've got an outsider's perspective here from Cooper. I do agree. The 4 aces, you know, the pitching staff being as healthy as it was this year, I mean, still giving 11 or 12, however many, was it 12 or 13? Doesn't matter. About like a third of Brian Woo's starts to Emerson Hancock this year. That was the like injury part of the pitching staff this year. And we kind of saw that in 2022 where there really wasn't a lot of injuries and the pitching staff was noticeably great. And there was a lot of praise around it. 2023, you lose Robbie Ray to injury and you lose Marco Gonzalez to injury. Of course, Bryce Miller, Brian Woo come up through the ranks and show that, hey, we're competent pitchers. Take a big step forward in 2024. Very healthy in general. I don't disagree that like adding someone in free agency because one, like pitchers should want to come to Seattle for obvious reasons, but also the depth at which we have in Double-A, which is the final stop for Mariners pitching prospects in general. I would feel comfortable with at least Logan Evans being a guy that could factor into making starts for the team in 2025 should injuries happen. I'm not saying like, oh, like 2 guys are gonna get injured and Logan Evans and Michael Morales are gonna come up and be the next Bryce Miller and Brian Woo. I'm not gonna sit here and say that because that's, you know, like lightning striking twice or whatever kind of a situation. Broken clock right twice a day, but I wouldn't feel super necessary or like feel super like powerful about going out and upgrading like in the middle part of the rotation. I'd say like a back end, like a number 5 type guy that
and Emerson Hancock.
Yeah, like a guy like an Emerson Hancock that could start some games for you, but it won't be necessary for him to pitch more than 20-ish starts kind of a situation is where I'd be at as far as like the pitching health is concerned. Because yeah, this year it's we've had a couple outlier seasons as far as starting pitching health is concerned. The bullpen's a bit different with Brash and Santos and then Garcia coming over from the Blue Jays. I think that's more of like where the pitching injuries happen. And you can kind of attribute that to how you're saying like the bullpens fall off of like you were kind of just left short due to injuries. Obviously that didn't really happen in the middle of the season. They happened before the season started, but they left you short during the season in general.
And I think that, to your point, Cooper, yeah, I mean, injuries, like Joe said, these are outlier seasons where basically everybody is healthy. And when Brian Woo came back, he literally looked like an ace. Like, it's an outlier season for pretty much every team in baseball. And, you know, for the Mariners, that's the one thing that kept them moving. That's the one thing that kept this team headed in the right direction was their rotation. But like Joe said, like, if, let's say, Brian Woo has to start the year on the injured list again, I'm more than comfortable throwing Emerson Hancock in that 5 spot and saying, okay, cool. He can have, you know, however many starts until Woo's ready again. Like, they can bridge the gap. The only way I think that they would really need to go out there and get another pitcher is if they had a disaster season, Cooper, like the Astros had from their starting rotation at the beginning of the year, where everybody ended up getting hurt, which sucked for the Astros, which is one of the reasons why the Astros were in such a big hole early. And I think that because of that, the Mariners should be wary that could happen to them because it's happened before. But I think that in terms of needing to go out and get pitchers, it should be on the back burner. We've talked about this quite a bit, but the only guys that should be staying, the outfield should be staying offensively. The outfield should be a lock, so Julio, Randy, Robles, and Luke Rayleigh. Those should be locks. I would assume JP Crawford is a lock. Maybe not necessarily at shortstop. And personally, I don't think he should be a lock. If you can upgrade over JP Crawford, I think you should. And then Cal Raleigh, and then the rotation. And then Andres Munoz, Troy Taylor, those guys, the back end of the bullpen. Those guys should all be locks, but third base, second base, first base, and possibly even shortstop should all be options for the Mariners to go out there and go get somebody. They could get creative. We'll have plenty of time to talk about what they could do. Like, I see people talk about Willy Adames. Yeah, no, I mean, they should. If Willy Adames is willing to come here, they should go get Willy Adames. If Ryan Mountcastle, like someone said, was willing to come here, sure. Why not? He's not great, but I think that it's an option. And so this 2024 team, Joe, offensively, we know how bad they were. We look at the years of Julio Rodriguez and JP Crawford specifically, because Cal was great.
Oh, yeah.
But Julio Rodriguez and JP Crawford, two guys that are supposed to be the main cogs, and you can throw Polanco and Garver in there, but we'll talk about them in a second. Two guys that have now been here for a few years that are supposed to be the main cogs in this offense. They underperformed, and JP specifically, like, had a god awful season.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, obviously injury for JP, but what do you think in terms of his production? Do you think that he can come back next year and be the same guy he was in 2023?
I don't think we'll ever see that version of JP again. I think that was him hitting his peak and promptly kind of like coming back down to earth. I think that he can be a league average bat. I really do. I think that there was probably a lot of pressure, a lot of weight on his shoulders coming off of that 2023 season to really kind of show up and show out once again and turn those lights off, turn them up, kind of the situation. The lights got too bright for him potentially in that situation. I'm not going to say that he's not a gamer, but it's one of those things where that's the outlier season. When you take a look at his page, you're like, okay, this is never something that he's ever done before. And he kind of returned to something that he was before, which is a below league average hitter with pretty okay defense at shortstop. But now as he's aging, that defense is definitely regressing. That's just the natural progression for a shortstop. As you get older, your defense gets worse because you start to lose your legs. And if he's losing his legs already, and that's going to impact his hitting even more, that could be a problem going forward. And Lucario said it, like, JP should not be a guarantee. You're kind of echoing it. Ty said it yesterday when he was on the stream with us. He shouldn't be a lock. I don't think that they'll move off of him just because of what he has meant to this club. But I don't... The whole conversation, like, who's the captain? Not to say that, like, this random little, like, putting someone on a pedestal really matters, but Cal is the captain. JP, if there's any questions about who the captain of this team is, it's Cal Raleigh. Like, full stop. He had the best season ever. Not ever, sorry. I mean, ever for a catcher, but like for the Mariners this season, like this was the best player. He was the best player for the full 162. He gave it absolutely everything. He was a top 15 hitter, position player by F4. There's only 3 pitchers that had an F4 higher than him. So like a top 20 player in all of baseball, and it's Cal Raleigh. I don't know how JP like gets back to being a competent hitter against righties. Like, he had reverse splits this year, which is something that I don't think he's ever really posted before. And I think it was Ty said like he just can't hit righties at home or something like that. It's like, what changed between 2023 and 2024? If it was lack of preparation, but I don't see that being a problem for JP. That's never really something that I've thought about JP, of like someone who's not going to come prepared. But I think that maybe, again, I would point to potentially the weight of that 2023 season and what he was able to bring, those expectations coming in, immediately not reaching them, and then kind of like getting in your own head. Like his comments, I think the day that they were eliminated, or maybe it wasn't when they were, I don't remember, but it was his 0 for 4 game. And then he said like it was 4 Ks. Yeah. Like against the Astros, like he was like, shitty, I just need to be better kind of a thing. Like, that's the mentality. If he goes into the offseason with that mentality, I think that he can come back and, again, not be a 131 WRC plus or whatever it was in 2023, but like 105, 110. I'd gladly take it as like the 7th spot. He shouldn't be batting leadoff. Like, he won't be your leadoff hitter, barring like injury going into 2025. But Yeah, I think he can get back to league average, but it's going to he's going to have to show it, right? Like it's going to have to happen on the field. Like I'm not going to like pencil him in as that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's back there.
And I think that right now, because I think is next year the last year of his contract, or is it 26? Doesn't matter. But he is a placeholder currently for the future of Cole Young, Colt Emerson, Fellman, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what JP Crawford is currently for the Seattle Mariners. So if he can get to just a league average player, maybe, like you said, 105, 110, then that's great. That is a great guy to have on your roster until those guys are ready. Possibly as soon as next year for someone like Cole Young. And so I think that is certainly an option for the Mariners moving forward. Before I move on to some other guys, let's read some chat here really quick. Marshawn said, "Thank you to Joe and Colton for Mojo. Some of the best reporting next to Locked On and reporting and giving a great take on our baseball club. Can't wait to talk more about the M's this offseason." Marshawn, appreciate it, man. Means a lot. It's been a lot of fun. It's definitely taken a toll on both of our mental health, but this year, but we survived it. The nice thing is, for us specifically, because I've talked to Ty about this and he doesn't necessarily have an option. If Joe and I don't want to talk about the Mariners, we don't have to.
Yeah, we can just kind of like, hey guys, we're gonna go play video games instead. Good night.
Yeah. We're not doing a stream. We're not making a video. Like Ty and Colby are like kind of contractually obligated. We're not, so we can do whatever the hell we want, which is nice. So like K Kinney says, also, let's just say last night's stream was incredible. So much fun. Felt like I was hanging out with you guys and Ty while watching the game. Good idea, Joe. Yeah, good idea to the guy who didn't even finish it. Good idea.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we can do stuff like that. Like, I don't think that Locked On can do that. Like,
control the zone. Patreon.com. I won't do it again, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that we are fortunate enough to be in that situation and still have an incredible fan base like you guys, and so we appreciate you guys, being here all year. But, Pete, someone asked, "Do you think they do anything to address the batter's eye?" I don't think they do. I think they leave the batter's eye the way that it is, because that is why your pitching staff is so good. Like the batter's eye, it hurts the hitters, but it helps the pitchers.
Yeah,
and it's not just it. It doesn't just hurt like the Mariners hitters. It hurts everybody's hitters. So, grab Skelly? No,
not gonna happen.
I don't think we should get rid of Castillo.
I think so. Ice Cube's been kind of saying Castillo stuff for a bit, and sorry if we've kind of like gone past it because we were talking about other things. You said earlier that he would get some decent bats. I think, given how much he's getting paid, and it's in the 20 millions. I don't know the exact figure right now off the top of my head. Probably.
I'll look. You don't look.
It's probably like 20. I've been looking stuff up on my phone instead of on my computer. I tried loading a Spotrac tab on my computer, and it literally felt like I like heard like a nuclear code kind of like go off. I was like, like
Castillo
I felt like I heard
is
it.
making 24 million next year.
Okay, so yeah, it's a decent amount of money. A team that's going to take on an aging pitcher like Castillo, who has declined every year since coming to Seattle. Like, just to put it bluntly, he was great when we acquired him in 2022 because he was in his prime. 2023 was another great year. It was a top 5 Cy Young finish, I believe. But you're starting to see that decline happen, like in real time. Of like his fastball doesn't have as much life, and the batters are getting more of it every single start. The breaking pitches, like, I mean, sure, he abandoned the changeup, the one thing that made him in Cincinnati. He's abandoned it, tried bringing it back sporadically, and it just gets hit. So, not to say that Castillo's like washed or finished, but out of the 5 pitchers that we could trade, he is what you will get the least out of in terms of a trade package, because the amount of money that he's owed and the amount of like control that he has. Even like with Gilbert, he's got 3 more years, but sure, they're expensive ARB years, but you take that and what he's shown as far as progressing versus what you've seen out of Castillo and the amount of money. But I don't necessarily like, if there was a pitcher to trade, sure, out of the 5, I would be like, yeah, Castillo, I guess, makes the most sense because it clears money and like whatever. It does have a no trade clause, so that gets a little funky, but I would be curious to see like what we could actually get for Castillo. Is that the Joe Doyle trade where it's like Castillo for Vientos? Is that what
Yeah, I
that like
believe
I think
so.
Lyle posted a
One
video
for
about it?
one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then they could like you could obviously expand it there if you needed to. Like if that's where you're at with Castillo's, like getting a club controlled guy who had a great year for the Mets and Mark Vientos, like that level of player, sure, it could be worth it. But the amount of suitors out there that might just rather go pay someone in free agency, that's more the likely outcome, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Ice Cube. That's my kind of 2 cents about that. Also, Steamboat's talked about the Justin Turner thing. Angie talking about on the broadcast, like him wanting to return. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, Steamboat, but we'd both be okay with Turner returning, but they shouldn't like just pencil that in as like the solution at first base.
Hmm.
So,
Um, so yeah, so going into next year, you are going to see a lot of guys. Um, you see a jump in salary. I mean, Julio Rodriguez is going up to nearly $20 million next year. Mitch Haniger, of course, you're still paying his 17.5, and then of course you have the guys in arbitration, and specifically the ones that are going to cost a lot, like Logan Gilbert, he'll be ARB 2, Cal Raleigh ARB 1. That's going to be a pretty penny.
mhm.
George is going into ARB 1 as well.
Randy,
Um, Randy's going to be ARB 3. I mean, there are guys you can cut off of here, like Sam Haggerty. He's going to probably get released.
he's gonna get non-tendered. Yeah,
Yeah. Like Luis Urias, honestly, wouldn't be shocked if he was non-tendered.
yeah. I mean, people talked
Um,
about Urias, Josh Rojas being an option to be non-tendered as well. Like, owed
yeah,
probably around like what 5-6 million.
something like
And
that.
sure, it's not. I mean, he provided you great defense at third base. Not a lot offensively after the first month of the season. Could you replace that in house for cheaper? Probably. You probably can. And
Mhm.
that's just kind of like the fact of the matter of like how money funds work in Seattle. That you can't keep around a guy that provided you something great in the 2024 season for $6 million in 2025 because you got to have to try and spread out that money elsewhere because other guys are going to start making more.
Mhm. Ice. If Julio doesn't perform above league average the next 2 to 3 years, do we think about a trade? I mean, he performed above league average this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was worth 4.2 wins and had a 116 OPS plus.
Mm-hmm. That's
Like he
above
is
league average. It's maybe not like what we expected out of him in his third year, but after
yeah.
we kind of called his season last year a down year for a bit, obviously August is the outlier month that turned his season around. That was the last 3 weeks for him this season was
Hmm.
that completely turned his season around. And sure, the counting stats don't look great. 20 home runs, 68 RBI. The batting average is right in line with what he's done in his career. The stolen bases are right there as well, like pretty close. And I think if the Mariners offense was overall better, like Gino got to 100 RBI. RBI counting stats, they're team stats. Like Cal got to 100 RBI because no one else on the team has over 70. That's just like kind of like the fact of the matter of like how those stats kind of play out, at least in my head. If more guys were getting on base, more guys were hitting the ball, like Julio could have had 75, 80 driven in. It's just that's not the way the ball fell in 2024. I do agree that like yes, it wasn't a pretty season for Julio.
Hmm.
And that's the whole gripe with him of like okay, is he going to be good for more than a month, 2 months in a calendar year? Because that's what you need out of him. You saw the impact Bobby Witt Jr. had on a full 162. Completely, not want to say carried, but damn near carried that Royals offense to the playoffs. If Julio is playing at a top 3, top 5 MVP level, this team's in the playoffs. Pretty much, in my opinion.
And the big thing with Julio this year was it is simply the fact that he was not pulling the baseball. So in his rookie year, he pulled the ball 27.5% of the time. Last year, 29.7% of the time. This year, down to 24% of the time. So I think that because the Seattle Mariners have Julio Rodriguez for the next at least like 8 years or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, he needs to get back to pulling the ball. He hit the ball to center field 52 or 55% of the time, and 20% of the time oppo. He was hitting the ball the other way quite a bit, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. But when you're Julio Rodriguez and you have the amount of power that this guy has, like you should be pulling the ball with a lot more authority than they have been. Um, as far as where this season goes, Joe, there were some, we there were some additions the Mariners made that weren't good. And we know that in Jorge Polanco and Mitch Garver specifically. A couple questions. First, as we stand right now, do you pick up Polo's option?
I'm standing? No. Sorry, you said as we stand, so I wanted to stand. No,
got it. Okay.
I don't think you do. He was your best second baseman out of like the rotating second baseman of the last couple of years in Frazier and Wong. He's been the best one, but that's still not good enough, especially with the $12 million. It's just not good enough. You have, I think, in-house replacements that can perform and hopefully will perform better in 2025 than what he showed you over the entire season. There were glimpses, there was a 3-week stretch where, maybe he is earning that $12 million option back with Seattle, but then he promptly fell back down the cliff. It was all the metaphor or reference that I always like to talk about. It's Sisyphus pushing the boulder. He was so close to the top, getting that $12 million club option, and then he promptly let the boulder roll back over him. Yeah, he shouldn't be on the team in 2025, in my opinion. Wish him the best. If he finds a job somewhere else, that's great. And if he's back to his career norms, that's Mariners. We'll see how it kind of plays out. But
he seems like the kind of guy that will get right back to his career norms as well. This seems like this was just an outlier year, in my opinion, for Jorge Polanco. And I think that there is still an opportunity where the Mariners decline his option and he is a Mariner next year.
Sure.
I doubt it, but if they decline it and they're like, "Hey, would you come back for 8 instead of 12?" He might do it. Obviously, the bigger disappointment this year was Mitch Garver. That is a guy that you were going to put in the middle of your lineup, batting 4 for you, and hoping that he is going to basically do what he's done his whole career and absolutely crush the ball. And he hit below 200. I think he ended up hitting 15 home runs.
Sure.
But
that ISO's going crazy.
Yeah, but with that's true. With Mitch Garver, what do you think the Mariners should do moving forward? Because they have him for another year at what, $12.5 million Steamboat assets. Should they move on from him? Are you okay with going into next season with him as your backup catcher, and then assuming that maybe he figures it out a little bit, is your right-handed platoon for maybe DH?
As an odd year Garver truther and copium consumer, I think he's on the team next year. And I think it's going to be more of a vote of confidence from the front office to kind of give him a pat on the back and say, "It's okay, buddy. You go when you want." Kind of like the Rocky and Patrick meme. You go when you want, buddy, kind of a situation for next year, because you do need a backup catcher. Not to say that Harry Ford's not ready, but I think you run it back with Garver, and it's a situation with Colton Wong. If he is not performing by June, he will be released. I think you give him a leash, not super long, but enough. And if odd year Garver plays out, that'll be fine. I don't hate him as the backup catcher. The problem is, right, you brought him in to be the more so everyday DH that they've avoided for so long, not to be the backup catcher. So he got everyday DH money. If he was getting backup catcher money, no one would care, because that level of production out of a backup catcher is honestly fine. I don't think he was prior. So 2023 was Tom Murphy's good year, right? When he was healthy.
Yes.
And 2022 was bad, but he was also injured. But he wasn't good when he was healthy. We're just looking at another Tom Murphy situation of how much do you want to pay Tom Murphy? It's definitely not over $12 million. But unfortunately, that's just what they signed him to. And I think it'll be Cal and Garver in the catcher's room the entire offseason, working to get better. And if Garver comes out the gate still slumping, still having the same problems of not being able to put some oomph into the baseball, and there was a stance change. I don't remember who posted it, but there was a stance change from his batting stance from earlier on in the year into this last week. Something changed. He's a little bit more. I don't think he's as tall. I think he's a little bit more low. If mechanics are a big factor there, like sure, something to get his swing right, get back in the groove, I'll be fine with it. But if he is still hitting 170 by June, not providing you much, I would be okay with them releasing him and then calling up Harry Ford. Is how I would do the Garver problem next year.
And I would hope that in that scenario, Harry Ford is pushing the envelope. Like Harry
Yes.
Ford, because if there comes a point next year where Garver is playing like crap, but so is Harry Ford, you probably just stick with Garver. And I think that if the Mariners were to keep Mitch Garver next year and Harry Ford starts knocking on the door, I think that they would be completely fine with getting rid of Mitch Garver at
Mm-hmm.
maybe the trade deadline or something. Whether that be in some weird like bad contract swap or something like that. I don't know how they would do it. Or if they do just decide to release him, it's not really John Stanton's way.
Yeah.
You know, he's gonna be like, I want to get something for that. I paid money for that guy. And I think that that's probably how that's going to work out. The Mariners did make a couple of additions, Joe, that I think were pretty important, pretty impactful in the offseason, namely Luke Raley, who was fantastic this year for the Mariners. I think that he has really been someone he was very important to this team this year. As we sit here today and we think back to the Luke Raley and Jose Caballero trade, where are you at with him next season? Is he possibly your starting first baseman? Is he, getting platoon time in the outfield? Where are you at with Luke Raley?
The Rayleigh conversation is one that I think I will look back on and be like, we acquired him to be a roaming outfielder, a guy that can play center field if you need him to, and then he gets relegated to first base out of like necessity, and he still thrived in that environment. He went against the grain every step of the way. The only thing that they didn't let him do was try and hit lefties more often, which I think they could do in 2024, 2025 and see how it goes. Because he had some moments where he did hit lefties. I mean, it wasn't all the time, but he did get some knocks where it's like, oh, lefty on lefty, Luke Raley hit. We're noticing. He led the team in the most important stat, which was first to the walk-off. Every single time there was a walk-off, he was the first person to reach the player that got the hit. That is an intangible stat that does not get measured, but gosh darn it, do I notice it every single time. He's got heart, he's got grit, and that's so important for a team that when you've got guys that sometimes get low, sometimes they just can't get out of a slump, they can't pull themselves up. Luke Raley is a guy that can drag them through the mud if need be. And he's not going to light it up on the stat sheet. I mean, yeah, set his career high in home runs. Only drove in under 60 RBI. Again, it's a team stat, but he does a lot of the things that you like from a fan perspective and also a coaching perspective. There were some ugly moments at first base. I won't lie. There were some ground balls that were hit where it's like, yo, you've played first base before? Like that's real. And it's also a product of him probably starting the year being like, I'm the left fielder. Smile. And then it's like, oh, I'm the first baseman now. Hi. I'm very satisfied with the Luke Raley acquisition. I'm excited that he is on the team. And I think going into next year, he is your fourth outfielder when a guy needs a day off and your first baseman to start the season. Because he's a strong side platoon, if you will. And if you have a Locklear on the roster, if you've got Justin Turner, Christian Walker might be a bit like steep as far as like a pairing there, but he could DH, but you don't want to DH Christian Walker because he is elite defensively. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at first base, but I'm okay with Luke Raley at first going into next year.
Yeah, so those are some additions the Mariners have made that have ended up hitting. And I think the big one was midseason with Victor Robles. He was truly the key to this Mariners offense. Like once Victor got here, and he was electric from day one.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to cause havoc on the base paths is second to none. Maybe he shouldn't try and bunt as much as he does for a guy that's hitting,
his hands are just gonna be like deformed by the end of the season if he does.
But adding Victor Robles to this team really kept this team afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he earned that extension, obviously. Moving on into 2025 and beyond, is he the guy? Is he this guy next year? Is the big question, because he earned his way onto this roster, and he earned a spot, and probably a starting spot next year. But I feel like there's an opportunity where maybe Victor does fall off a little bit back to what he's been in the past. Not like he's gonna like be terrible, but I don't think he's gonna be the guy that's hitting 308. The stuff on the base paths, I mean, that doesn't go away. Like if you can get him on base, he is going to cause havoc no matter what. But if that is the case, Victor moving forward, let's say he does fall off a little bit, then maybe a platoon of him and Luke in right field makes some sense there. And maybe that's the way the Mariners do plan on going. Again, the outfield is set moving forward, but in terms of the guys they added, Luke Raley and Victor Robles, even if both guys are not the best versions of themselves next year, I think that they can make a pretty good platoon out there in the outfield if they needed to. And again, Luke Raley could be playing first base with Justin Turner coming back possibly, but with the addition of Victor Robles, Joe, do you think that was kind of a turning point for this Mariners offense?
Before I address your thing, there was a comment that I want to read because it was important. Vinny said, Joe Colton, thank you for the content this year. Y'all made being a fan special this year for me this year with all the content and laughs. Y'all have a fan in me till the end of time with a smooches bro and the little emoji, the fingers crossed. So I'm going to throw some smooches bros in the chat for Vinny. Vinny, appreciate the warm heartfelt message, if we will, if we're going to get sappy. Appreciate you. Just wanted to read that before we continued on. But, what was your question? Robles. He's probably not going to be the guy that, like you're saying, hitting 307, OPSing above 800. Like, he's probably not going to be that guy. If he is, fantastic. If he regresses a little bit, like platooning him and Raley makes complete sense. And you've then hopefully got a more bona fide option to fill out at first base as opposed to kind of like what I was kind of laying out earlier. If it is like a Christian Walker and then you platoon Robles and Raley, that should be great. That's great depth that a team that should be vying for the playoffs can afford to have, because you need to have the best chance to go out there and win as many games as possible in as many situations as possible. Robles was a turning point for sure, because we all remember how the first outing went. The dropped fly ball and then immediately grounded into a double play. It was almost improbable how much he turned around after such an awful start. Like, there might not be a worse start. I mean, there probably is, as far as like if you look at like negative WAR or like negative win probability added or whatever. But like just like from a baseball perspective, the eye test, a dropped fly ball and a grounded to double play is brutal. A brutal way to start your new scenery, essentially coming from a top prospect situation with the Nats never panning out. And then you come over to Seattle, a team notorious for picking up like bargain bin diving guys and them just not working out. And then now Robles is the diamond in the rough. Like, there was a point in time before Julio got hot that Robles passed him in WAR. Like, he was a more valuable player than Julio at some point in the season. I think Julio did level that back out. But the fact that you got 3 wins out of Victor Robles and he only played in 90 games the entire season, like, that's a crazy development out of him. And props to the Mariners, I guess, for finding him and for getting the best out of him. You know, if you want to give praise to any situation, like the Robles situation is definitely one to kind of take a look at. But I'm not gonna sit here and say like he's gonna do this exact same thing next year. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's still worth about two to like 2.5 wins next year in a full season.
And the defense is like there, like if nothing else, his defense is something that is very important to the Seattle Mariners for at least this outfield that has Randy Rosarena in it already. Luke Raley is not like stellar in the outfield. Someone mentioned Dominic Canzone earlier. Yeah. So having Victor Robles, like a legit Gold Glove quality outfielder, like we were talking about, mid-season going out and getting Luis Robert, right? And instead they went out and got Victor Robles, and Victor Robles was 10 times the guy that Luis Robert was the rest of the way. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad that we kind of backed off on that. But yeah, I think that with the outfield being set, Joe, we are going to have to make a list of guys we think the Mariners should look at this offseason on the free agent side of things. And I don't know if I'm going to include a single outfielder not named Anthony Santander.
Because he
And
can
Juan
play
Soto.
first base and DH for you. Also, sorry if Colton was lagging. You kind of went like robotic for a second, but it seems like it's better now. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, the free agent list, especially with how the free agent class is, it's definitely interesting. We saw Bregman being talked about earlier in the stream. It's honest. I mean, it's a no from me, dog. Just because I don't want to deal. I mean, sure, like there's intangibles that you can bring in with the postseason presence, a guy that's been there, done that. But if there's like, I don't know, he's at the bottom of my list for guys that I'd want to bring in that are the been there, done that kind of a player. And you know, no discredit to his success in his major league career, but I don't give a rat's ass about Alex Bregman's success. I don't want him in a Seattle Mariners uniform.
He's a flea on the nutsack of society.
What he said. What's up, J Mars?
J Mars, what's going on, man? Ford versus Garver too. Still trying to think about how they want to work with that. I think that Ford starts the year in the minor leagues, but I think that he should be knocking on the door come this time. Or not even this time, but like the middle of next year. I wish we would bring back Justin Turner. He brings championship caliber experience and good vibes. And him and Rayleigh rotating at first, just have him DH would be nice. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't dislike the idea of bringing back Justin Turner. The only thing I do dislike is bringing back Justin Turner and then not upgrading. They say, okay, he's our first baseman, instead of looking at meaningful upgrades. If they go out and they try to get, Anthony Santander, Christian Walker, etc., and they just this, and they're like, okay, well, plan D is to go out and bring back Justin Turner, then sure, that's fine with me. But I don't necessarily think he should be guaranteed a starting spot next year. Don't get me wrong, he was great with the Mariners. It's just, I don't know. Maybe first
he's 40
base.
years old. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's 40. Like, he's at the end of his career for a reason. And not to say that guys can't play into their 40s, but like, it's very, very few and far between. If it's the same situation of like talking about drafting a high school catcher and then being a bust, very few and far between for the Harry Ford deniers. For the Justin Turner truthers, like, listen, if Father Time wants to give him another year, so be it. I'll happily take him. But it's also just going to be a challenge if we do bring him back and it's like, yeah, he's a good vibes guy, but he's not performing. Cough, cough, Mitch Haniger. He was brought in to be a clubhouse vibes guy that maybe wasn't going to start every day. Slowly saw his role reduced. I mean, he didn't play for what felt like 2 weeks down the stretch when they were still in playoff contention, and then finally got into a game once they were eliminated. And I don't think, like, the amount of money that Turner would cost, he signed a $13 million contract with Toronto, 1 year, $13 million. So like next year, maybe he's worth 1 year, 10. Would I do that? Yeah. But like, you also have to kind of take a look at like what you've also got on your roster right now. Like, did we watch Mitch Haniger make his last plate appearance, his last appearance with Seattle today? You very well might have. And how that looks as far as releasing him, because if you're going to trade him, he's not worth diddly squat because of his performance, unfortunately, and how much money he's owed. Because the Giants said, hey, buddy, you're good, right? And he's like, yes, I am. And then,
Yes, I am.
then they got hoodwinked, and it's a sad situation because I think at his best he is worth that money. He just hasn't been that best since injuries kind of started to derail. And where you sit with your roster construction, because you can't stash a guy like a veteran. You can't stash veteran presence in the minor leagues, unfortunately. That's just not how it works. Like, you have to have them in your major league club, and you run out of roster spots quicker than you might imagine. So he gets hit. Yeah. So he's a professional hitter, like consummate professional hitter through and through. If he continues to do that into his age 40 season, fantastic. Right? you struck gold, maybe like you struck silver because he's old. Maybe his hair will start to go gray. I'm reaching here. I'm reaching at the.
That wasn't funny.
I wasn't supposed to be funny. It was just okay. Listen, I get that you look older than Justin Turner, but you don't need to take it personally.
If Justin, immediately hire him as a bench coach. Yes. If Haniger declines his option, is he a legend? Yes. Could you imagine? Mitch is like,
this is for you, Seattle.
Like, yeah. That, honestly, dude, that'd kind of be sick.
If he did, imagine he announced like he does another Players Tribune article.
I'm declining my option.
Declines his option in the article.
Or like he retires or something.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by a Mitch Haniger retirement announcement at some point.
If anybody was going to decline their option for the betterment of the team, it would be Mitch Haniger.
A guy like Mitch Haniger, yeah.
Yeah. Like he is like the one kind of guy that I could see doing that because he knows that he is not helping this team. With that being said, like there is a very, very small, minute possibility that Mitch Haniger could be a league average bat. Like it's possible. It should not be with the Seattle Mariners. It should be with a team like the White Sox. Like
damn.
Mitch Haniger is a guy that I think could go to the White Sox this offseason, have no pressure on him, just go out there and play and hopefully stay healthy and kind of prove it that he is able to still go out there and win baseball games. So, how old am I? I am 28. The 2024 gave Colton most of his gray hair. That is true.
Doesn't look a day over 28.
No. Yeah, so I don't know, Joe, what do you think?
I think Stream Elements is right. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed.
Yeah.
Late 20s? Listen, bro gets into his mid-20s and is already having a mid-20s crisis. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, 69 likes or die. Blackman replacement Mitch, honestly, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, chat, I'm 28. I was born 1996. July 24th, 1996. Grow the beard out? I've thought about it.
Really?
Like, not long, because every time that I like have it a little bit longer, I'm like, ew. You know?
I don't like it when it gets big. I mean, do you think I've had my beard bigger than yours before?
Yes.
When I was like when we were on the like on our
New
East
York.
Coast trip, yeah. That was the biggest my beard's ever been. You guys probably won't see a picture of it, but it was like thick. It was big. It was like poofy. Like I could like run my hand through it very easily. Not as big as like Jake's or like Jay Trident, whatever, but it was definitely out there, and I despised it. I really did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It just feel like I don't like sleeping on it when it gets so long. I can feel it while I'm trying to sleep. Does that make sense?
No, but
Got it.
Yeah. So, chat, we still have a podcast we need to go record. So we are gonna go do that.
We're just so busy, guys, that
shut up.
God, you shut up. Colton, really quickly, how was your last game of 2024?
I'm trying to like be heartfelt and say thank you to the people that are here, asshole. All right.
I know, and I'm gonna let you get heartfelt about your last game of 2024 and then transition those emotions, channel them, if you will, to the chat.
So honestly, it felt more the game on Friday was the game that like it was really hitting me, where I was like, it's over, man. Like that's it. Like I was sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, damn, we ended with fireworks, which was sick. And I think that the game today, I was just kind of there for the vibes. But Friday specifically, man, I was just sitting there, I was trying to take everything in. I was trying to sit there, you know, and watch every single pitch, every single at bat. I didn't give a damn about the outcome of the game because who cares, right? Of course, the Mariners ended up sweeping when I feel that way, because why not? And I think that because of that, I for me specifically, I always think when I leave the ballpark, especially when it's the end of the season, like I'm like, you know, who knows if I can come back next year? What if I'm dead?
I'm sorry. Let's
That's
not
how
go
my
there.
brain works. That's literally how my brain works. So I'm like, this could be the last time I ever go to the stadium.
Sure.
I have felt that way since I was a kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I have felt that way since I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid walking out of the stadium down behind the home plate gate and looking up at like the bat chandelier and being like, this could be the last time I ever see this. Like literally.
Your brain is crazy.
My brain is weird. But no, 2024 was a special year, man. I think that I speak for all Mariners fans when I say that this year was very taxing on the mental health side of things, in terms of trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with this baseball team. And sure, we all had arguments like AJ and Colton are. They're
really going at it.
They're both dumb. I think that's just kind of the beauty of being a Mariners fan, is you literally opening day happens and then you just scream for 6 months and then it's the end of the year. Generally, you're sitting on the couch in October. And it was because of the people that our goal this year, chat, was to build a bigger community and a better community and be able to really, get to grow a tight-knit group of people that we're all pulling the rope the same way. We all love the Mariners. And I think that we did achieve that. We opened the Discord. So it was not just members. We started posting more members-only videos. We tried to do the Mariner Mojo meetup and whatnot. And I think we've met so many people this year specifically, and it's been pretty surreal for me to, like, when I'm at work, dude, and people come up to me and are like, hey, like, you do Mariner Mojo. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people know that who I am, and at my day job, like, that's weird. I don't like those two things colliding. It creeps me out. Yeah, I think that we achieved our goal of growing a bigger and better community. And because of that, people that I've met throughout all of this year, I'm never going to be able to name everyone. But J Mars, K Kinney, of course, everyone that came to the Mariner Mojo meetup, people that I just see walking by that just give me a high five and just say, hey man, appreciate the content. Like, we appreciate what you guys do. Like, it feels good, man, to know that we as a group, Dadar,
he's all right.
Yeah, he's whatever.
Shout me out.
But I work there. But Joe and I, and we've always wanted to do like content stuff since we were kids, bro. There are videos somewhere in the ether of Joe and I dancing to "We Are Who We Are" by Kesha.
Damn.
Like, in my bedroom.
You're gonna dox us like that?
That's on my iPod Nano.
Crazy. You're gonna air that dirty laundry like that. That's crazy.
On my iPod Nano that doesn't work anymore. I actually have the iPod Nano right here, but it doesn't turn on anymore. But no, those videos exist, and we were able to channel that now into Mariner Mojo, and being able to literally, I have made friends, through this. I have met people that I would have never known otherwise. Okay, again, all the great content creators, Ty and Jake and Colby, I guess, and Lyle and TJ, and it's everybody. Again, I cannot come say everyone's name. It's not physically possible how many of the cool people I've met. So from the bottom of my heart, we appreciate you guys, making all this possible, because truly it's not possible without people watching it and people supporting like you guys do. Like, when you look at, like, from a monetary standpoint, we couldn't do this if we didn't make at least some sort of revenue from it. We could, but it'd be a lot more difficult. Shout out Connor, because he followed me, and Connor, I guess. Yeah.
Couch EM's alright. He got shouted out on the WSU Boise State broadcast, but I guess, like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna beat his ass in fantasy today, but yeah, whatever. But, like, it's something where you guys come through. Like, we have Greg dropping $50 once in a while. You know what I mean? We have people gifting members and whatnot. People that'll just come in, not even say a word, and just drop a super chat. We got people that'll, after a video's over, drop super thanks. We've had multiple at this point $500 donations. Like,
crazy.
It's astounding that people are that generous to be able to support Joe and I's dream, and that you guys are here. We've had hundreds of you guys in stream before. I mean, the trade deadline stream specifically is one that sticks out in my mind, where we had, what was it, 600 people in there?
Over 600 on that one.
Dude, incredible. And the fact that there are 600 people that give a shit what you and I have to say, crazy. And the fact that you guys are willing to be here day in and day out. When there's the people I recognize like everybody's name in here.
Yeah.
Like that's how often you guys come back. And it's just so cool that you guys are able to help us out like that. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for, making all of this possible.
Yeah, what he said.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, how do I follow that up? I can't follow that up. I don't have the willpower to sit here and do that for another 5 minutes. But we love you. We love you so much.
That's crazy, bro.
So yeah, that's it.
That's poured my heart out to the chat, and you're like, oh yeah.
That's the last Mariner Mojo stream for the 2024 regular season. So
damn.
Yeah. Thank you for pouring your heart out, Colton.
Yeah, I'm glad someone could.
So I didn't have to. Yeah.
Bro, I'm such a sentimental person, and the last game of the season makes me emotional, bro. Like it feels like the closing of a book. And so it's something that, it hits me hard every single year. And this year, through all the shit, through everything that this baseball team put us through, still same thing. It still hit me hard. So cover the Astros postseason for me, bros. Cooper,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Sorry,
I would rather watch paint dry.
Yeah. No offense to you. We like you, Cooper. You're sick.
You're chill, but
heck the Astros, bro.
Maybe on MLB Mojo you'll get like a 3-minute segment, kind of a situation of like postseason things. Like this is what's happening. I hate to tell you this, Cooper, but we're rooting for the Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers! Detroit Dojo goes crazy.
Going crazy.
Who wins the World Series? Joe, make your call right now. What are the final two teams?
We've got the Padres and the Yankees. No, they're gonna choke. Let's go with the Guardians. Padres Guardians. Stephen Vogt in his first season. He's gonna make it to the chip, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm going Phillies. I was gonna say Phillies in New York, but that just seems like a cop out. I'm going Phillies Royals. I'm sticking with it.
Bet.
How'd the 999 challenge go? Ugh.
Colton did great.
Dude, I literally went to the ballpark today and I had the smell of hot dogs and I wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to stream postseason games? Maybe on MLB Mojo.
Yeah, who knows? The Dodgers, the Doyers. Hey, man. We'll see if they show up in the postseason. I definitely sold, dude. I completely bottomed out real quick.
It was literally Joe's idea.
Yeah.
And he dropped out, and then Ty and I went through it. Phillies Dodgers rematch versus Astros incoming. I'm sorry, Cooper, but whoever they're playing, I'm rooting for the other team.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Unfortunate
I'm sorry,
for you,
Cooper.
But
again, nothing against you. It's just, we just don't like the Astros.
Yes,
your
Ian,
new profile
like
picture
it.
looks good.
Yeah,
Big
whatever.
But yeah, no, we're not we're not gonna stop streaming. We still got streams when we can. I mean, there'll be some times during the offseason where we'll be like, shit, I just want to stream.
Yeah.
And of course, whenever something happens with the Mariners, they make a move or something, we'll try to be here as soon as we can. So that'll be the plan. So, but we appreciate you guys being here for the final stream of the 2024 regular season. It's been a wild ride, man. Mariners season's officially over. Now we have like the dark times, the dark months, up until we do get to see the Mariners in the sunshine down in Peoria. But yeah, we appreciate you guys being here.
I can't believe this is the last ever stream. I can't believe we're deleting the channel after this. That's crazy.
True.
Yeah.
See you guys for the winter meetings. Yo.
Let's hope they do something good instead of hold out the entire time this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not really. I mean, it's Soto. Everyone's on Soto watch. Let's get some Soto Mojo, because Juan Soto's going to be a Seattle Mariner. I'm not going to scream the F word one last time. I refuse. Mainly because I don't want to lose my voice, because we have to go record a podcast. But we're going to leave now. This is goodbye.
All right.
For the 2024 regular season.
Mm-hmm.
We went live a bunch. I think I missed
right.
like 2 to 3 Sundays the entire season, maybe 4. But all right, guys.
All right.
Appreciate everyone coming out.
See you later, 2024.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Bye
See you,
now.
24.